here's my harp. It's all done. I've drilled out the holes and cleaned them up, and I'm ready to start stringing my harp. I'm going to start with the bass end, and I've got the strings laid out. This is G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and these are the wrap strings. I've got 4 bronze wrap strings, and then I've got 5 nylon wrap strings, and after these I go to the monofilament nylon strings, and those I cut to length as I put them on, so they're not that critical. But I got these laid out, they're ready to go. I've got my sheet telling me what strings go where, and I thought this is interesting. There's now a warning label on bronze strings. It says, please use caution when handling bronze strings as they are fragile, can break easily, and be sharp. Please wear eye protection as well. Please inform end user of these warnings to prevent injury and string breakage. And I do want to point out that the bronze strings, the bronze wrap strings, are the most fragile strings that I've come in contact with. They're not particularly delicate, but if you do put them to a certain amount of force, if you tighten them quickly, they're the most likely to break. So you want to use extra caution when using the bronze strings, because they're also more expensive to replace. So don't get heavy-handed when using the bronze strings. So here we go. I've got the G, the lowest string. Unwrap that. And I just feed it through the back like this. Pull on it, make sure it's set up against the back of the string rib, and then pull up. Then I come up over. Here is the bridge pin it's going to rub against. Feed it through the hole there. And you don't want to pull it tight. You actually want to leave it out a little bit because you want it to wrap a few times. And you do want to be gentle as you bring this up to tension. I don't know if you can see that. I want it to wrap around the tuning pin a couple of times. I'll get on the other side of that. So that when it is brought up to tension, it doesn't put a lot of pressure on that bent section as it comes out of the tuning pin. Get over there. And that's the first string. Now for some others. And the next one is an A. Again, feed that from the back. Tug on it, make sure it's set. Tuning wrench on here. And I don't want to be that tight, so I pull this down a bit. Cut these off with wire cutters here in a little bit. And the nylon strings, like the bronze strings, are fed in from the back. Pulled out the front. And just tug on them to make sure they're set. Bring it up. And these are nowhere near as fragile and delicate as the bronze strings, so it's nice to be done with the bronze strings, at least for a moment. And again, leave it a little bit slack. You don't want to pull it taut and try and wrap that. You want it to go around the tuning pin. And I'm not worried about tuning right now. We can take care of that later. Now the next strings I'm going to work with are just the monofilament nylon strings. I've got a 55.055 diameter. That's going to be a B string. Then I go to 050. That's going to be a C. And then D and E are both going to be the 050 diameter. But first I want to show you how to tie a knot when you run a string through using a monofilament string. We're going to pretend that this piece of rope is a harp string and it comes through the soundboard, and you have to tie a knot in it so that when you put the sound string under tension it doesn't just slide out. And the knot is very simple to make. You just put a loop in the harp string once, you put a second loop in the harp string, then the second loop goes inside the first loop so that when it is pulled tight it constricts around that, and now it can't be pulled out through the soundboard. I can do this without getting my hands in the way. So you have one loop, then you have a second loop, and the second loop is simply fed into the first loop and is pulled tight. And that will hold the string against the back of the soundboard, and you can tighten up the string and it won't slide out. Now the nice thing about the monofilament lines is you can feed them in from the front fairly easily and reach around the back and feed them through. You probably won't be able to see this, but this is the knot I was telling you about. Hold that taut, make sure that knot is set, and you just like the other strings. Give it some slack. That's how you do the monofilament strings. And I'm going to illustrate the problem we're going to face. We're going to pretend that this is the soundboard, and we're going to pretend again that this rope is the harp string. You have a very small diameter harp string, and the smallest hole you can drill, which for me is about a 1/16 of an inch of diameter. Even though you put the knot on the string, and you do it properly, the string can still come out through the hole. Or if that doesn't happen, what's actually a little bit worse for you is you have the knot tied, the string goes through the knot and it wedges in that hole very tightly. If this string were to break with that knot wedged in the hole, if it happens at home and you're with your shop, you can find a metal rod or something and jab that out, you'll be fine. But if you're doing a performance, this string wedged in that hole is going to be problematic. You've got to find a way of getting that out and replacing it so you can continue with your performance. And that can be very frustrating because these things can be wedged in there very, very tightly and be very difficult to remove. So you don't want that to happen. Now, you'll remember earlier when I was trimming These nylon, I don't know if you can see this, these nylon strings, I was trimming them off. I said I kept these. I'm going to show you what for. For the sake of illustration, we're going to pretend that this handle is a piece of that nylon string that I cut off. So I take the small diameter string up through the soundboard, put the regular knot in it that we do, but we put this big piece of nylon through it so that when we tighten up the knot, it holds the string in place through the soundboard. I'll show you that again. You take your string through the hole as you normally would, do your knot as you normally would, but in addition to putting the small loop, the second loop inside the first loop, in addition, you're also going to put the large piece of nylon through the first loop and then tighten that up. And then when it goes through the hole, the thing will stay. And this is what you do on the smaller strings of a harp to reinforce it. So I take my scrap of nylon that I have here, and I just cut it. Hold on to that little piece. Then I take the small string that goes through the hole. Comes around, do the knot as normal, except now I take this piece of nylon and I put it in through the big loop, tighten that up, and it's going to look kind of sloppy there. But now, when I pull that in, that'll hold it, and I just bring this up and secure this way I would any other string. I'm going to try that again, this time with a blue string, because I think it'll show up better on camera. So here's the piece of nylon that I've got. I'm going to cut it. And that's the big piece I keep. Then I take the small diameter string, feed that through the hole. Tie the knot there. Second loop goes inside the first loop, and then the big piece of nylon goes in there as well, and I tighten it up around both the nylon, don't fall out, and the loop. Hard part is keeping the big nylon piece from sliding out. I just pull that tight, set it, and bring it up. Okay, there's another technique I need to teach you, and again I'll be using this broomstick and this rope to represent what I'm doing here. This is going to represent a very fine, this rope is going to represent a very fine harp string. This is going to represent the tapered tuning pin that you use. Now normally, when you do this, You just put the string through the tuning pin, rotate the tuning pin, and that'll be enough there's enough friction that it holds everything in place. But as you get to the finer harp strings, I'm going to be going to a 032 harp string next, and then a 028. They have a tendency to slide out as you try and rotate it. You put the string through there, and as you turn the tuning pin, they tend to just slide right out. So I'm going to teach you a little way to lock that in place. Normally, as you turn the tuning pin, you just feed it underneath, and everything works out well. With the finer strings, what you want to do after you've fed the string through the hole is you want to come over the top, stay over the top for about the first part of the wrapping. Then when you get to the free end that comes out, bring it over so it will lock in that piece, and then it'll stay there, and you can wrap it around normally. So again, that's going to look like, here's the loose end. You come over the top first, stay over the top, then come back down so that it's going to be caught in that little X there, and then you tighten it up, and that'll keep it from falling out.